Infrastructural development in China is well known on a worldwide basis. Whether they are small or major nations, they will urge China to help them create infrastructure, and China particularly likes helping some small countries with their growth. Additionally, it will use loans to pay for infrastructure development in these little nations. Due to its sizable population, economic disadvantage, and plenty of opportunity, China assists the bulk of those in Africa. Africa is currently the world's second-largest market. China also began to get ready after realizing the large market in Africa. Tanzania is the African country that has been doing business with China the longest. Therefore, as a result of Tanzania's quick halting of commercial connections with it, China experienced extremely severe economic losses when the general public believes that China and Tanzania would always be allies. Why was it so difficult for China and Tanzania, who had previously had such a cordial relationship, to break off communication, regardless of the tie that existed between the two countries? What exactly has happened to China? Mineral resources abound in Tanzania, a small nation in Africa that has struggled economically but is known for its abundance of natural resources. Tanzania is one of a kind when compared to other African countries. Tanzania has been working for a long time to grow its domestic economy while still maintaining a sizable trade surplus. Tanzania has, since the founding of China, had the aspiration of establishing diplomatic links with China. Tanzania has even assisted China in regaining its rightful place in the United Nations. China stands to gain a lot from this. Tanzania is like a younger sister. Tanzania is a huge African country, with a total land area of 9.45 million square kilometers and a total land area of 9.45 million square kilometers. As a result, China is quite enthusiastic about contributing to the growth of Tanzania's economy and infrastructure. Manual labor makes up the bulk of Tanzania's economic activity across all sectors, but especially in industry and agriculture. It does not appear that there is either an industrial foundation or large-scale harvesting or planting equipment. Even the most little quantity of light industry that is necessary to provide people with their daily needs must be obtained from somewhere else. One may argue that Tanzania's notoriety is solely attributable to the country's huge mineral reserves. In its current state, Tanzania is a developing nation that suffers from congested domestic transportation, an absence of heavy industry, and an inability to rely on natural resources as a source of fuel for other businesses. As a result, Tanzania intends to approach China for assistance in the construction of roads in order to first stimulate the economy in favor of domestic expansion. Since China understands that Tanzania must broaden its economic base, it has been directly contributing to the construction of roads at some of the most affordable prices in the world. The mining sector in Tanzania has experienced rapid expansion in tandem with the revival of Tanzania's economy, which was made possible with assistance from China. Tanzania's agricultural productivity has increased over the past several years, mostly as a direct result of Chinese agricultural technology that has also been supplied to Tanzania. Even military supplies were donated by China to Tanzania. Standard military uniforms, military headgear, and a variety of talents for war leadership are all included. Everyone in China used to receive education. In point of fact, the term assigned to Tanzania's armed forces on the international stage is the African Liberation Army (ALA). Already, China and Tanzania have collaborated on 723 different projects. It is possible to argue that the current economic structure of Tanzania would not be possible without the backing of China. As part of its One Belt One Road initiative, China has plans to construct a port for the African nation of Tanzania, which also has a coastline. This project, which is also the most ambitious undertaking in the history of both China and Tanzania, is intended to cover the costs of the endeavor. China plans to invest $10 billion in this port in order to construct a massive port that will be capable of powering Tanzania. Following a drawn-out negotiation process with the Tanzanian government, China was granted an exclusive license to use the port for the next 99 years. After an interval of 99 years, Tanzania regained control of the port. Tanzania's economy stands to gain from China's construction of this port, which will also contribute to the further opening up of the Belt and Road Initiative. Despite the fact that 1999 was a very long time ago, China has nevertheless spent $10 billion. After 99 years, it's probable that it has just started to receive its money back. In addition to that, Tanzania's economy may benefit from an increase in commerce if this port is developed. In spite of this, Tanzania's president just finished a recent term change while the port was still being constructed. After then, Joseph Magufuli, a member of the John Peel Parliament, would succeed Robert Mugabe as president of Zimbabwe. In order to put an end to the corruption, the port project was immediately halted. It was John Pombe. Every unfinished project from the previous administration was halted as soon as Joseph Magufuli took office as president of Tanzania. Work at and around the port has been halted as Tanzania's new administration conducts an assessment of several projects. Joseph Magufuli believes it is foolish to invest $10 billion only to establish a port, and he believes that corruption in this port is a rather big concern considering that John Paul may be involved in it. He is also of the opinion that the sole motivation for China's construction of this port in Tanzania is financial gain. As a direct consequence of this, John Pombe Joseph Magufuli issued a public declaration claiming that the assistance of China is not required for the construction of the port. The untrustworthiness of China was first brought to the attention of Tanzanians by two countries outside the country, Japan and the United Kingdom. In the end, it will not be necessary for China to pay $10 billion toward the construction of the port, because of the response that China gave to the tragedy. At this point, Joseph Maggie, also known as John Parnaby, started having second thoughts about traveling to China in general. It made it very clear that it was abandoning the construction of the port in order to engage in discussions over Tanzania's possible future growth. The trips that Joseph Magufuli and John Parnaby took them to Japan and Britain, respectively. Because of this, neither Great Britain nor Japan intended to construct a road in Tanzania at the time, and they were even unwilling to do so when given the opportunity. As soon as John Peel and Joseph Magufuli became aware of how kind China is for Tanzania, he resumed their conversation with them in a courtyard and sat down next to them. For as long as Sonia continues to make a request, China will not be the same as it once was. He will promise that he will look into it as soon as possible. Tanzania chose to do nothing. Therefore, it was made to carry the blame for everything that went wrong and was given the lowest ranking. When John Parnaby, Joseph and Magufuli observed that China was not exhibiting much movement, he increased the amount of effort that he was putting forth. He said that China would be in charge of developing all internal railway projects and that China was their most reliable and trustworthy ally on the world stage. He also stated that China would be in charge of developing all internal railway projects. In addition to this, China is slowly but surely re-establishing good relations with Tanzania, mainly because China is the only country that can lead Tanzania's economy to development and the only country that is willing to lead them to expand cooperatively. When John Paul and Joseph Maggie officially passed away from new crown pneumonia after the new president took office, he did not hesitate to deepen relations with China. Maggie had been John Paul's wife. Therefore, although I'm not sure when the port will be finished, the same port operations will resume in the near future. Share your opinion in comments. Also, click on this video to watch about another shocking project.